It is 7:09 on Tuesday, February 11th. I did not do a lot today, even though I should have done a little bit more, because I have assignments that are on a weekly basis, so I don't want to save them all until the end of the week. But I don't know why, I just could not find the motivation to work today, but I have been doing a couple of work after my workout today. The thing I want to talk about right now is this idea of artistic music, and I know that sounds pretty redundant. Music itself is an art form, therefore artistic. But this kind of idea came up because I've been really listening to the World's album from Porter Robinson. And I'd love to talk about Porter Robinson later. Love his music. I love the stuff he's done with the music and the progression to different styles. But I've been listening to a lot of Worlds, and out of all the songs, one stands out as more artsy than, maybe actually should I say it's artsy music, more artsy than others, and that's Fellow Feeling. Because personally, I believe, and I may be wrong in this assumption, that Fellow Feeling does not necessarily have the goal of being a song that people would want to listen to enjoy. And that is coming from maybe a biased opinion where I don't find dubstep to be actually very listenable. But the beginning and the end of Fellow Feeling is it's great, but the middle is dubstep, and I don't find that particularly enjoyable to listen to. But I think the context within the song itself and how that dubstep works within the story of the song makes it a worthwhile addition. Damn, I'm really struggling with words here. But the dubstep serves as another voice, another element of the storytelling where it is not meant to sound melodic and beautiful. It's meant to sound jarring and disjointed. And that's a really interesting idea within music where you're prioritizing the story and over the quote-unquote listenability of the song. And do some people enjoy dubstep? Absolutely. And no shame to them. People enjoy music. Art is supposed to be subjective. But I don't find that part good to listen to. I think it's in the same regard as I think Parasite is one of the best movies in recent history, maybe in the last 10 years, one of the best. Because the goal and the story of the movie was so prevalent. Will I ever want to watch that movie again? Absolutely not. I hated every second of that movie because it filled me with dread and anxiety, and that was the goal of the movie. I'm not saying that movie was meant to make it unlistenable, but the goal of the movie may make it uncomfortable, and that story will make it uncomfortable for some people to want to rewatch it. But you have to understand that sometimes it gets so artsy that the story comes out through the music in a way that is interesting and introspective, but is not trying to be beautiful. And I find that really cool because there's not a lot that I could say is to the same level as Fellow Feeling is when it comes to that regard of sacrificing listenability in order to tell a story and show the emotion within a piece. Really is not a lot of songs, even on my playlist, that have that. There are a couple of songs that try and work something out similar to how Fellow Feeling. There's one by Athoro, one of my favorite artists on Spotify, but Journey's End, where it has a kind of sort of dubstep section. And I think it works, not as well as Fellow Feeling, because I think Fellow Feeling is baked into the story itself, and Journey's End is more of just an emotion of the character telling the story, which is still interesting to think about. but that also kind of lends into like other music. I'd say like a really artsy song that I've also like listened to. Let's see. I know one. Let's see if I can find another one. Yeah, I'd say one of the bigger artsy songs that I've listened to is Sisyphus by Quedeca. And I know that that's a really odd sort of choice, but I think that song, well, it doesn't actually show the same like thing as Fellow Feeling. Well, I don't think anything is showing ever that I've ever listened to has shown the same as Fellow Feeling. But I think that Quedeca in that song uses the landscape of music and the melodies in contrast to a harsher glitch trap kind of area and the rap over it to contrast each other and work within the story itself. And I know that there are definitely a lot of more artsy people, like I would say Kendrick Lamar. I've actually in English class, we've studied him and looked at his music and the symbology within it and within his music videos. But I feel like this is something a little bit different. Well, like rap and stuff like that is meant, like the lyrics themselves are a completely different thing. And I think what I find a little bit more interesting is when the music itself is artsy. Like I guess another one would be there's this trailer for something from Hoyo Mix. It's called Fantasy Note. And you can tell it's a trailer song, but it's so interesting where it starts off as kind of like a jazzy piano something, like kind of little classical, mysterious. And as the song transitions, it keeps like picking up and getting a little bit more exciting. Like it's like in a spy movie when they're just about to escape, or they're just about to, it's like they're finishing a mission and it's getting a little bit exciting. But what's so cool is that as the story goes on, it slowly transitions from this soft piano jazz mystery feeling to a more electronic, like as slowly like the drums come in more and more. At first it's more like, okay, that could be within a classical setting, but then slowly gets more and more and more intense, and then it fully comes in with like a glitched electric guitar that rides up and down and like fractures. And it's so cool because it's so cool within the context of the song and in the context of what it's trying to tell, that even without listening to or watching the trailer, you can follow along to what is happening just through the song. And I think it's so cool that songs like this can be so incredibly artsy. Like another Athoro song, it's Sketchbook. This one is a callback to a lot of the stuff within the within their album of Sketchbook. And it's so interesting that this song comes out. It's the final song of the playlist. And if you listen throughout the album and a bunch of other things, it's a great album. It's very atmospheric. I love it. It's very calming. It's beautiful. But as you go further and further, it calls back to other songs. And that works within the lyrics of the song, where it's talking about like, our journey is over, and like we may be parted, but you got to remember that what we've done, what we've written down, and the stories that we're told are still always going to be here. And you got to just remember that. Like, even if we're far away, like I will always be there. And having it call back to other melodies from other songs and finishing off with something very similar to another song is like calling back to the album. And I love it. And I understand that a lot of other artists definitely do this. Like, I know that Anthony Fantano has talked about the storytelling within albums. Granted, though, he always talks about within the rap scene, and I'm more interested into the musical side of storytelling rather than the lyrical side. And I understand that a lot of rap artists also do a lot of musical storytelling, but I'm just not really into rap as much. But I find it so cool when these artists can be very artsy within their work, to either tell a story, to finish up a story, or to use the music itself as the storytelling. I find it so beautiful and interesting, and it's something that a lot of people I don't think really talk about, where I don't want to say like, oh, mainstream nowadays, but music I think nowadays is more so to have fun listening to. Like popular music, pop, is you listen to it to have fun. That's what a lot of people want to do. They want to listen to music and have fun. But I find music that has these unique storytelling abilities and these unique melodies in ways that a lot of popular music just doesn't really have, or convoluted stories. This may be because like when I grew up, my mom really liked Harry Chapin, and his storytelling methods and his pathways of telling a story within a song are completely different than the modern day storytelling. And so I kind of grew up on that like Simon and Garfunkel, like Harry Chapin, James Taylor, that type of kind of unique folk-esque storytelling. And I feel like I have an appreciation for it, and especially now in a lot of current folk music where it's less, where it's unique stories itself, and then I think it's just really cool. But it also comes down to the fact that I really like video games, and I think video game music is a really important thing about video games, and they have to tell a story within an environment that coincides with the scene of the game without using lyrics most of the time, and I find it so much more compelling when the music is a unique storytelling device rather than lyrics. And so it's just really something I find really interesting and cool. And I would say that Ethoro, I'll talk about them later and how I love them, but they are really good at environmental storytelling within songs and using the music as a narrative device. Like I would say another one of my favorite ones is Hollow Heart by Porter Robinson. And it's just the beginning, but sometimes you have to think of people, of noises and the melodies as voices themselves. And at the beginning of Hollow Heart, if you ever want to listen to it, it has that ability that it sounds like a conversation going on between two characters, because you have one melody and one sound, and then another melody that's a little bit more and more kind of melancholy and sad comes in response almost. And I love it so much when the music is the storytelling device. And I'm sorry I nerded out a little bit. I have to do some homework now, but if you ever listen to some music, listen to the music a little bit. And it's just interesting and fun to hear some unique perspectives shown through music, because unique stories are hard to come by with how much music has come out. But the ways you tell those stories can vary infinitely. And it's just really cool, because music can tell stories that in ways that are just so cool.